I'm the kind of person that will try anything. From studying abroad to athletics to theater, at Hiram, I have those opportunities. I've learned to ask what if a lot more and look at problems in different lights, and to live in the moment. My goal as a student and in life is to have no regrets. Because of Hiram, I feel like I'm ready for the spotlight.
At Hiram, I'm challenged to really think for myself. I've learned that there could be 50 right answers, not just one. My professors have been tough, but also so inspiring. They've really helped me find my focus.
Life lessons are what I'm going to take with me from my diverse community of coaches, professors, and students. Hiram has expanded my viewpoints and my beliefs. To me, Hiram means family. You get a chance to know everyone personally. Transferring here is one of the best choices I have ever made.
I try to humanize technology. I train students through Hiram's Tech and Trek program so that they can use these resources to work smarter.
Every day, I see students working to solve complex, real-world challenges. I truly enjoy fostering those conversations.
All right, so I gotta head. I'll see you later.
Okay, see ya.
People make the difference here. I've built relationships with my professors and my peers, so for me, Hiram is a really helpful, supportive environment. I'm learning more than what's in a syllabus or a course description. I'm figuring out how to network and get involved. Howdy, Mary.
Helping people is my passion, so I'm studying science and healthcare, but I'm also learning a lot about who I am. By taking care of the people, the animals, and the environment here, I know I can make lives better. I came to Hiram for a degree, but I'm leaving with so much more. I am ready.
Prepared.
A work in progress.
I am passionate.
Bright.
Confident.
I am the new liberal arts. I am
I am.
Hiram.
Visit hiram.edu.
Welcome to Fireside Chats, 60 minutes of stimulating conversation with some of Northeast Ohio's most interesting entrepreneurs. Get the inside story from folks who have taken the leap and who are willing to share what they've learned, the good, the bad, and the inspiring. Fireside Chats, real entrepreneurs, real stories, real learning. Fireside Chats are brought to you by the Center for Integrated Entrepreneurship at Hiram College. Be sure to look for our Fireside Chat podcasts where you can listen on your own time and our dime. For more information, visit hiram.edu/entrepreneurship. Now, let's get chatting.
Welcome everybody to our final Fireside Chat of this semester, coming to a close tonight. And we welcome all of you viewing with us via live streaming. And just to let everybody know, Fireside Chats for this semester are now also available via either video or podcast. So if you go to our website, www.hiram.edu/entrepreneurship, click on Fireside Chat and Podcasts under additional pages. You'll find the bios and the links to those. And hopefully in a few weeks, we will be available via the podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and a couple of others. So we're getting that all set up. So tonight, we are privileged to have as our speaker Mike Dougherty, who's with us. And Mike is not new to starting a business. He's a co-founder of one business called Breakwall Analytics, but he's really here to talk to us tonight about his newest startup, which is SmartMulch. Quite interesting, quite fascinating. I think he's going to share with you some real valuable lessons in being an entrepreneur and what it takes and what you go through, and how you have to, possibly pivot or change your way of thinking to get to the final product. So with that, let's all welcome Mike.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kay, for the warm introduction. Again, my name is Mike Dougherty. I'm the incredibly dryly humored founder of SmartMulch. What I'd like to do tonight is give you guys a little bit of a bio. We'll get into the what we do as well as the why we do it, and hopefully pass along a couple of lessons or some things for you guys to think about as we get through the presentation. So I am a finance major. I graduated from Baldwin-Wallace and did what all finance majors do when they don't know what they want to do when they grow up, and I went into banking. So I was a banker for about 15 years, knew that wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And about 7 years ago, started doing some small business and early stage startup consulting. A little bit of everything to try and understand how companies work, what companies have to go through as they try to build a brand and a product. That led me to a couple of ideas on my own. As Kay mentioned, I'm a co-founder of Breakwall Analytics. We design and develop our own sensors. We pull metrics out of the physical world, we visualize those, and then we provide insight to help you manage things in a better fashion. Also, again, obviously founded SmartMulch, and we'll get into that story here in a second. But basically, the what we do. So most people are familiar with the image on the left: regular bag of mulch, big, heavy, awkward, messy. Some people think it's smelly. Other people actually like the smell of mulch, for what it's worth. But whether you're familiar with the bag, or obviously this time of year, we just came out of snow. I think I still have snow on the ground at our house. So you probably haven't lifted one of these bags in a while, but there's a lot of backache and pain that generally comes with this. So we intended to develop a solution to that was lightweight, compact, making it easy to carry and allowing it to fit conveniently in your car so you could transport it much more easily, much more conveniently from the garden center to your house. Here's a before and after. Basically what SmartMulch does is as you add water, it expands 4 or 5 times the packaging size. So again, on the left, you can see 8 tiles that were set into place. About 2.5 minutes later, after watering, they expanded, again, 4 times vertically. Obviously, one of the things that we're trying to drive home with this product, again, is simplicity, its convenience, its ease of use, and really trying to save your lower back and making it more convenient to go to the garden center. But no matter how well or not well I try to describe it, what I've found the best thing to do is show you our demo video. So also, there's nothing better than a corny demo video with a startup. So we'll let this play through. Again, you have to wait for it, but super corny. Each of those tiles is an 8-inch by 8-inch tile, about a 1/2 inch thick when compressed. And again, it expands to a little over 2 inches of depth vertically. So that's what we do. Again, we're compared to some of the other companies that you guys. So that's what we do. Again, we're compared to some of the other companies that you guys have talked with. We're probably one of the earlier stage companies. Some of the companies you guys have been listening to or talking with, I know have been in business for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. We're much earlier than that, still trying to refine what we're doing. And this story sort of goes back a fair way, actually. So I grew up thinking about waste differently. That's one of the big drivers for SmartMulch. And as a kid, whether it was collecting aluminum cans and recycling them for money and buying baseball cards, or we would pull hardwood dressers off the curb that someone was throwing away, we would fix them, paint them, and they would end up in the garage collecting baseballs, basketballs, or whatever. We always tried to see purpose in what other people were throwing away. In fact, my dad in the 60s would pull TVs off the tree lawn, go to the library, get the electrical schematic, fix them, and sell them, and that's how he bought his first car. So again, this idea of viewing waste differently goes back a fair way. The start of this was actually driving around the city of Cleveland, which is where we live, and seeing a bunch of curbside tree waste and thinking, wow, a lot of this ends up being landfilled, at least in the city of Cleveland. There are some suburbs that are more progressive with what they do with that material. The city of Cleveland landfills that, so I thought there has to be something more purposeful to do with this instead of landfilling it. And had, at the time, read or had seen something about how when you compress wood at a high enough level, it'll actually naturally bind itself together. So with no additives whatsoever, you can compress wood and actually make a fire log that is more dense than traditional firewood, and as such will burn 2 to 3 times longer than traditional firewood. So the idea came up, why don't we source this material that someone else is throwing away, chip it, compress it, and make fire logs out of it, and obviously sell that. So we took a few of these ideas into a business accelerator called Sea Change. It was a social enterprise accelerator. A couple of those ideas were, we called the smart log, because nowadays if you add the word smart to anything, it's sexy and it's technology driven. In addition to the smart log by itself, we envisioned this idea of what we called a campfire to go. And basically a campfire to go was an assembly of these compressed fire logs in a way that you could pick it up, set it into place. The carrying case was the ignition source. You'd light the carrying case. It would burn for 2 to 3 hours without a problem. And again, we were repurposing material from the curb. A couple other ideas. Again, we entered Sea Change with these ideas. And it sounds like you guys are familiar with the business model canvas. That was something that we worked with in this business accelerator as well. And when you think about the key activities involved in what I just talked through, you're sourcing wood, you're chipping wood. If you stop, you have mulch. And literally, I got a pain in the back just thinking about mulch. You know, people buy tons and tons of mulch every year, and it's painful. So we sort of took a step back and said, what if mulch was better, right? So you can kind of picture, you go to the garden center, you load up heavy awkward bags onto the cart, you pay at checkout, you move those heavy awkward bags into your car, you're overstuffing your car, driving home, then moving these heavy awkward bags to their final destination, ripping open a plastic bag, dumping haphazardly, spreading by hand or with a rake, and you think you're done. You have a beautiful landscape ready to go, right? You're proud of all the work that you did. You have this sense of accomplishment. But you're not done. You still have to throw away all of that plastic waste. You probably have to vacuum out your car because little bits have gotten all over the place and you don't want your car to smell earthy. And you're probably reaching for either some Advil or a nice stiff cocktail to finish off the day as a result of the back pain. So we took a step back and said, well, what would mulch look like in a perfect world? And I would encourage you guys to think about problems from this perspective. And to carry that through, the perspective is, what if? And no constraints exist, right? Money is not an issue, gravity doesn't work, the sky isn't blue. What is the Cadillac or the Tesla of the solution, what things would look like? And we decided that mulch would be easy to carry, fit conveniently in your trunk, actually prevent weeds. And the side note on that is when you think about a plastic bag of decomposing material sitting in your trunk after sitting out in the yard at a big box store for a month or two, half of the weeds that grow up within a couple weeks of you putting your new mulch down probably started in that bag. It's a decomposing wet material. It's a perfect breeding ground for weeds. So we wanted to, again, design something that would actually prevent weeds and not contain them to begin with. We knew we wanted to deliver them in zero waste packaging. We knew we wanted to deliver in a way that you weren't cleaning up bits and pieces of mulch from your car. And then, again, not worrying about, I shouldn't say again, but one of the other things that we sort of later folded into this design was the idea of not opening a bag and looking down and seeing all this white mold in the middle of it. So Ohio and a few other Midwest states actually have a pretty big problem that if mulch sits out too long, you'll end up with white mold, which, you know, not that dogs or kids should be eating mulch to begin with, but that's not good. It can also negatively impact your plants and cause rot in trees. So we sort of took these characteristics and thought, again, how can we deliver that? And so having this compressed fire log on the mind, took a step back and said, well, you know, I've set tiles in place. Maybe we can compress it. We'll, by compressing it, reduce the volume quite a bit. By taking a lot of the water out, we're significantly reducing the weight that's involved. And you can picture just setting tiles in place, coming back, watering it. And one of the most interesting things about this was that one of the biggest challenges with the smart log idea was that if it got wet, it would expand. And so we had to think about packaging it in a way so that that didn't happen, or we had to think about that in a way where if you went to go start a fire and it was drizzling out, your log would actually start to expand. So that challenge with the smart log actually became sort of the magic behind the demo video that you guys just saw. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we're designing this product with a purpose. I think design can be very purposeful. I do not have a design background. I don't have an engineering background. My dad was an engineer, so I like to think like one occasionally, but that only gets me as far as playing one on TV. I'm not an engineer. But when you step back and really and you take a thoughtful approach, you can incorporate some of these solutions or aspects or characteristics into your final product. So again, for us, the big two were easy to carry and compact. So now you can fit all of your mulch in the back of your Honda Civic instead of taking multiple trips to the garden center. On top of designing a solution that we thought would be better for the consumer, again, one of our values is designing better for the environment as well. So whether it's zero waste packaging or by taking a lot of the weight and the volume out of the product, we can actually deliver to a retail environment in a van, not in a massive semi-truck. So by doing so, you're saving some greenhouse gases along the way. Again, on the design side of things, we think that this is not an either-or proposition. You can design and take the right approach to design both for your consumer and the environment or other stakeholders that you personally want to involve in the process. One side note for what it's worth, and I get yelled at this occasionally when I'm sitting in front of my computer, I have my legs up on my desk, just staring off into space. Thinking is underrated. Don't be afraid to take some time, think, get your thoughts straight, push yourself, and again, try to get outside of your comfort box relative to what a solution might or could be. So how do we get here? Honestly, most days I couldn't even tell you. It's been a blur. We entered the Sea Change Accelerator, which was a 3-month time frame. At the conclusion of that, we pitched and actually won some money through a pitch competition. We then pitched to be part of the Magnet Incubator program, and we were awarded funds through that as well, or compensatory funds through that as well. From that, someone heard about us, and we were invited to be a speaker at Startup Scale Up, which is a great event. If you guys have not been, I'd highly encourage that. Some other fantastic press, Cleveland.com did a Manufacturing Tomorrow podcast, which was focused on, again, thinking about innovative solutions and trying to drive manufacturing in Northeast Ohio and throughout all of Ohio. You know, I'm, again, doing conversations with students all the time, whether it's LaunchNet at BW or CASE I'm thrilled to be here talking with you guys today, and I'm kind of blowing through this presentation because I really want to hear more from you than you guys hearing from me. So how did we get here? The second part of it, it's been a roller coaster. One of the things that I don't think is often talked about, particularly in the early days, again, 5 years in, 7 years in, you've probably figured some of these things out as a company. The reality is at this point in our company's life cycle, things can change dramatically from 1 week to the next. And most likely, you're having a 1 step forward, 2 steps back day. That's just how it goes. So be prepared for that. This is a fine picture of a roller coaster from Cedar Point. I think it speaks to, again, some of the highs and the lows. I just had a high actually on the way here. I was talking to Kay. I received a Facebook message from someone who saw us at Sea Change and said, "Hey, are you guys going to be available for sale this year? And we saw you at Sea Change. It was inspiring. You guys were doing great things. Looking forward to being able to support you." Those are those sort of few and far between, and hopefully the trajectory of that kind of stuff increases. But you have to be aware that you need to be able to manage through the ups and the downs. And again, early on, there are probably going to be more downs than ups. One suggestion would be think about finding a co-founder. I have not done that with SmartMulch. It's one of the things I would probably change. I would probably try to find someone who is complementary in skill set to me with some minimal overlap. That also creates accountability. You never want to let someone else down. 1 + 1 = 3. All of that kind of stuff. If you find the right co-founder, you can really advance much faster than trying to do it all yourself. So a few additional unsolicited thoughts. You guys are going to get, my 2 cents, and that's about what these will be worth. But never stop learning. I think it's great you guys are in school. I was in school. I left school for a while. I probably didn't do enough continuing education. What I would tell you, though, is there are so many opportunities today to very quickly, very easily learn something new. And I would push yourself to get outside of your comfort zone. If you're an engineer, learn something about art. If you're a marketing major, learn something about engineering. I mean, push yourself and think outside of what you've been trained to do. The reality is, at least from what it sounds like going forward, you all will probably have 3 or 4 or 5 mini careers as you go from being 20 to 65, or however late in life you end up working. So really push yourself on that. And the personal point of that comes from, there were 3 of us that are in a book club. And the only reason I knew anything about the what if question and the removing constraints was that we did a design thinking course on Coursera. So we get together typically about once every 2 to 3 months. We read a book, we go sit down at a coffee shop or grab a beer and debate and talk and really try to, again, push our level of understanding of things that we're already comfortable with, but also, again, things that you've not exposed yourself to. So I would highly encourage that. Secondly, assumptions. There's a saying about this. You guys can look it up if you don't know what it is. But as you think about, particularly on the product development side, and you think about understanding who your consumer is, who your market is, don't make assumptions. Look at, and in fact, I would encourage you to write out what are your most critical assumptions to the business, the concept, the idea, wherever you're at in the course of your company life cycle, and understand which of those are the most critical, and then design a specific experiment to prove or disprove those. So don't assume that people think a bag of mulch that's 50 pounds is heavy, right? Because for some people, it's not. For most people, it's heavy, it's awkward, but You can't assume that. Get out in the field, go do some work, understand what you need to prove and disprove, and even if you don't like the result of it, at least you know. Now you're informed and you can adjust and you can move the way that you want to take your company or your product. For us, well, I should say, know your customer, that's paramount. For us, obviously, we're targeting bagged mulch consumers, so people that are DIYers, currently buying bags of mulch. They probably have a small to medium-sized landscape. They're willing and able to pay for some of the convenience and the removal of backache that we think comes with SmartMulch. And again, point being here, dive into who your customer is. That's definitely an assumption that you don't want to make. And do whatever you can to quickly, easily, cheaply prove or disprove that you actually know your customer. One of the things that I'm going to show in a second that I think for me was sort of an aha moment with SmartMulch was the initial demo video that we did. And the point of this demo video was to get the concept out there, get feedback, understand how people would react to it, and again, try to do that as quickly, easily, cheaply as you can. Of course, I would be the one to have the technical difficulty.
Hit that reverse button down in the corner there, the black. No. Yeah, scroll up. There you go.
It's on delay. So this was the original demo video that we created. Think about how this notice different about that video versus the first one? Anything jump out at you guys?
It's more interactive.
More interactive.
The way the pieces of mulch that were like in that one, it was like something that was underneath of it. That wasn't just around it. It was like some type of like covering that was
weed barrier.
Yeah, underneath of it.
Okay.
You can see that one in the second one.
Is there another comment? No. So the interesting thing about this video, again, with the purpose being try to, well, so let me ask one more question. Did it still get you guys to the point of understanding what the value proposition was and how the product might work? Mm-hmm. Fair enough? Okay. So that, what you saw in that video was actually a piece of plywood with a picture of mulch downloaded from the internet, glued to it, stapled to weed barrier backing. If you go back and watch that again, and you can go to mulchsmarter.com/Hiram, you'll see that as the water is being sprayed, you don't see the mulch. The mulch isn't even in the picture. So this video that included this took maybe a day, maybe a day and a half to buy the materials, put everything together, shoot the corny video. I think at that time on my iPhone 5. it allowed us to put that video out there for people to see, for us to get feedback in a day and a half, right? Actually making that tile would have taken months. So we were very, very, very quickly able to get feedback and try to move things forward. So I would definitely encourage you guys to think about that. I think SmartMulch is actually a really good example of that. The better example, which is where the inspiration came from, was Dropbox. So when you have a second, look up Dropbox fake demo video. You guys all know what Dropbox does, right? It's cloud storage. So their initial demo video is a desktop with you dragging a fake file into a folder. It didn't work. There was no cloud attached to that. But by showing a file being dragged into a folder that said cloud or Dropbox or whatever it said, people believed that that was being dragged into this, at the time, mysterious cloud storage where actually that file was stored in a cloud. So I would push you guys, think about if you have an idea, how can you quickly get it out there so you can get feedback and decide what to do next? Because at this point in your idea cycle, time is critical. So feedback is important. Time is critical. We're about to get to, again, my favorite part, which will be your questions, as well as what you like about it, what you don't like about it, how we can improve it. But I always like to, and this is a side note as well, when you have an audience like this, and I know you guys are here required as part of the class, but some of you are here and probably actually enjoy this. When you have a group of people together, don't be afraid to make an ask. And you can frame that actually as an offer. So my offer to you guys today is if you can connect us with a garden center, a hardware store, a grocery store, or some other green channel where we can distribute and sell SmartMulch, you'll get 1 year of SmartMulch free. So again, obviously there's value in that to us, so it's not like, there's nothing tricky about this. It's an offer. It's really an ask. We obviously welcome your support if you do have a relationship that sort of sounds like that, and if it results in a partnership, fantastic. The other offer is I've done a fair amount of work with college students, and one of our advisors has done a fair amount of work with college students as well. So if you guys have an idea and you just want to kick it around, I'd be happy to talk. And maybe it's, again, something like a demo video that fast tracks your idea or forces you to, in a day and a half or 2 days, get feedback, whereas you're overthinking and trying to perfect, and you're not, you're too worried about getting that idea out there before it's really, really refined. I'd be happy to talk with you guys about that and continue to share my experience with you. In fact, I guess one quote that I don't think I said, I think it was in one of the slides, but if you're not going to market, or if you're not taking someone to a consumer to get feedback, and if you're not feeling slightly embarrassed about it, which for guys like me who grew up as a perfectionist, very difficult to do, but if you're not slightly embarrassed of what you're showing someone, you've probably overdone it. You've probably spent more time on that widget, that product, that SmartMulch tile, that SmartMulch puck, whatever it is, you should have gotten feedback way before that. So that's one other little tidbit of advice, I guess. So with that, I want to hear what you guys like, what you think we can improve. Fire away with questions. And again, thank you guys.
Eric, how about talking to the Home Depot to get your product into their stores? Or?
I have, and it scares the hell out of me because I don't think we'd be able to fulfill an order from them right now. But I think eventually we'll look at some of the big box side of things. I think initially our go-to-market though is, again, if you think back to who our consumer is or who we think our consumer is, because again, we're in the process of trying to prove that now. We think our consumer is someone with probably a little bit more discretionary income, someone who's buying bags, someone who is willing to pay for the value, which for us is convenience and ease of use. And oftentimes that's going to be more of an independent garden center, a hardware store. There are some grocery stores that are more naturally focused. So I think that is probably a better fit for us today. I think that also fits with, for us, I think it also fits from an adoption curve perspective. So I think the people that are at those garden centers, hardware stores, are probably more open to trying something new. Because again, we haven't gone to market. You can watch the video and you can probably understand well enough what's going on, but do you know enough about it today to buy it? You need to be open and interested in new things, and I think that fits better on the independent, small side. But I would love to get to Home Depot and Lowe's at some point. So Home Depot and Lowe's, we'll talk to you in a couple of years.
How long does it take you to actually produce it, and is it hard to change the colors?
So let me address the color side first. So we are currently not manufacturing the mulch ourselves. We're buying from a mulch yard, and that has been very purposeful. We wanted to focus on where we think the SmartMulch value add is, which is taking that loose mulch and compressing it into tiles, or again, what we're going to go to market with is actually pucks. So we're already buying the mulch dyed. It's ready to go, and then we just put it through our process. In terms of how long it takes to make, let's talk afterward, because there are a couple of different answers to that, and those answers have actually driven to an extent what we're going to go to market with, which actually, I should have passed these out before, but so you guys can see the tiles compared to the pucks. We're actually going to be going to market with bags of pucks instead of the tiles, and that again is also purposeful. We believe that the pucks are hitting the core of our value proposition, which is again lightweight, easy to carry, and compact, and fits easily into your car. One of the big drivers for steering from the tiles to pucks is the production cost related. So we also wanted to go to market with something that is, yes, going to be more expensive than mulch, because again, we're delivering some value, but not ridiculously more expensive than a regular bag of mulch. Good question.
So for like the tiles or anything like that, if you were going to say need about half the size of that, or need it to be shaped like so it could fit in a pot or something like that, is it easy enough to where you can just break it, or would you have to get like a saw, or what would you have to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there are a couple of ways that you could address that in that current form. You could snap it over your knee, most likely. You could also water it separately and then move it into a smaller pot. Longer term, though, there are several things that we want to incorporate into it, like stamping our logo into the top of the tile. And again, this is all going to be based on what feedback we get from the market. We could stamp a logo into the pucks as well, which from a marketing perspective, I think would be pretty cool. On the tile, though, as you think about it, it's a square tile, right? So not many things in nature are linear. So you might be able to line it up against a straight sidewalk. You might be able to line it up against the side of your house. But as you get to those curves and the bends in your landscape, that's not perfect. And we have a few ideas about incorporating brake lines into it as well, so that if you did need to accommodate a rounded area like this, you could just snap off, a triangular portion on the side of it and then more easily place it in. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. If there was.
In terms of like environmentalists, did they ever come to you when you first started doing this to see if it was, environmentally friendly? Since I'm sure at first some people thought, it sounds like it wasn't like real mulch you were using.
It's a good question. So we're asked a lot of times, or we're asked quite often, what additives are included. And as of the way that we're designing these right now, there are no additives in addition. So we're not using additional glue, we're not using resin as a binder. That would probably be one of the potentials for losing some of the environmental component of it. So we're trying to stay as natural as we can. Trying to think of what else people are asking from the environmental side. Sort of back to a couple of the things that we tried designing in, zero waste packaging is a big thing. So, the reality of those plastic bags is that you probably could cut them off the top, dump your mulch out, and reuse that bag as a garbage bag. I don't know of anyone that does that other than me. So most likely you're throwing those plastic bags into the garbage. They're not recyclable. So the idea of either having a recyclable package, a zero waste package, where 100% of the packaging and the product goes into the landscape, you water it, and it eventually degrades into the landscape. That's one of the things we're still working toward. We're not there yet. And then from the environmental standpoint, a lot of people will point out that yes, we don't need a massive semi-truck because we're 1/4 the size. We need vans instead of those semis, but there's obviously production or there's obviously power consumption related to our production process. We don't know exactly where that settles out yet, but we're trying to be as low energy as possible, both from a cost perspective, but obviously also from the environmental perspective. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So, the lifespan of it, does it last as long as what you would get with normal mulch, or are you seeing lesser time frames with it?
So far, all the testing that we've done indicates that it's lasting at least as long. I'm not ready to claim this. We're not going to add it to the packaging yet, but if you think about it, that bag of wet mulch that's sitting in a big box store, that's out in the sun, wet, decomposing, that decomposition process started at the mulch yard. It was then bagged, it was then on a truck, it then sat in the big box yard for 2 months. Then you bought it, spilled half of it in your car on the way home, and then obviously got it home. So during that whole process, the product is degrading. Whereas with our process, we essentially put mulch into a hibernation status. So we stop that decomposition from happening as part of our process. Obviously, once it's watered, you're reintroducing water, and that will begin the decomposition process again. But there's probably an argument if we were to sit down and test that our mulch lasts 2 to 3 months longer because we've paused that decomposition. Like I said, I'm not ready to claim that, and it's on the list of things to do, but as you can imagine, based on the way I've talked about it, there's a lot on the list of things to do. So, but it's a good question. At a minimum, we think it'll last at least as long. What else do you guys have?
And what's the price difference between like a regular bag and SmartMulch?
So we are deciding that in the next week or two. So you can go back to mulchsmarter.com for an update. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram as well. We're trying to be as price conscious as possible from the standpoint that, again, is there anything ridiculously crazy about this? We're not sending someone to the moon in a structure made of mulch. At the same time, it's going to be different, right? This isn't something that this isn't the way most people have been mulching their yards. So we know there's going to be some hesitation on the product. We know there are additional costs that come into play from our side, and we're really trying to balance that. I mean, we're definitely going to be more expensive than a regular bag. And for context, when you think about it, a bag of the lower grade stuff at a big box store is somewhere between $3 to $4. If you go to a garden center or hardware store, that same bag, probably a little bit better quality, is somewhere in the $5 to $7 range, and that's still a 50-pound, 2 cubic foot bag that a lot of people struggle to carry. So we're going to probably be north of that. I'm just not sure yet. we're finishing up some pricing analysis on that.
Weight-wise, so you just said that a 2 cubic foot bag of traditional mulch is about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So if your pucks will expand to the 2 cubic foot, what is that weigh?
Yeah, so depending on if the regular bag of mulch is pretty wet, it'll be about 50. If it's moderately wet, it'll be about 45. Will be about 25 pounds. So not quite half, but at least 40% lighter than a typical bag. And again, the intent is to be about 1/4 the size. So a little bit bigger than a 12 pack of cans is what we're targeting. And you can picture a big bag will be significantly smaller than that. A lot easier to fit in your car.
Do you feel that you're going to have to retrain the consumer, or are you going to have to do a lot of live demos to show off the product so they understand it?
I think we will. One of the parts of the go-to-market strategy is probably setting up a table or a booth similar to this and walking people through how they expand, how you need to set them in place, what we think the value is. I think some of it, once you see the video, becomes a bit more apparent. But I also love the idea of someone trying to pick up a 50-pound bag and then pick up 2 of our packages, 1 in each hand, each weighing 25 pounds. So I think it is going to be, there's going to be an educational component to this. Like I said, I think the video goes a long way, but there are instructions that we'll need to build into how you disperse the pucks, how you water it, all that stuff. So yes, I think there will be a fair amount of time spent educating, and hopefully consumers that like what we're doing will help educate other people too. So, did you have a question too?
Just hold it.
In terms of like your overall like sales and stuff, like how far do you think it will be take for you guys to kind of go like over the country?
The short answer is I don't know. What I will tell you is that we did a free sample. We ran a free sample day, and we're actually going on a trip, set up the website so that you could sign up for your free sample, which allowed us to gather some information, name, email address, where they lived, obviously, the color preference. And then, most importantly, it allowed us to send them a tile, have them use it, and get feedback. We ended up, my phone, and this is sort of a goofy side story, maybe hopefully you don't run into this, but our free sample was picked up by a bunch of freesample.com type websites, and within an hour and a half we had 150 people sign up for a free mulch tile. Now part of that just says people love free stuff. Part of that also though means they were willing to give their name, their phone number, their email address, their address, their color preference, just to get this thing, just to try it out. So we ended up, as it ended up happening, we went back to a lot of those people and said, I'm sorry, we can't fulfill this order right now. And long story short, we ended up sending 40 samples to something like 24 different states. So again, when you think about that, an hour and a half of people just seeing this, we had interest from 24 states, which I think also speaks to, again, the idea that even though people don't necessarily think of this as a major problem, because it's once a year, you get through it, and then like I said, you pop an Advil or you have a drink, it seems like it's a problem that is occurring nationwide. So I don't have a great answer to how quickly we'll get out there. I think our intent, again, at this point is to be pretty conservative in our estimates, and really focus with laser-like attention to what does the consumer like about it, what don't they like about it, how could we improve it. which is probably a good segue to that. So what do you guys, thick skin, I want to hear actually probably more about what you don't like about it, but what do you guys like about it? What don't you like about it? What other questions would you have if you put on your consumer hat?
If I were to walk by a box of the tiles or pucks or whatever, I wouldn't even look at it twice just because of like how plain the boxing is. I think if you guys made it more of just like a visual, like the box was more visually enticing, people might actually give it a second look and everything.
Okay.
And then just it kind of looks like the Office Dunder Mifflin box, not nice, but
Okay.
I just think it would be more appealing.
How, and this is back to all of you, not just to you, but so how would you do that? What would you include on the packaging, or how would you think about it?
I don't know, just some kind of like more colors to it, I guess, or like just like an actual little like tiny square sample of the stuff on the top so you can actually feel it and see what's inside the box instead of
Okay.
just taking the word.
What's that?
Can we see the packaging again?
So this is not our go-to-market packaging, but this is what we've been showing. Which I agree with you 100%. It's plain. It's we can zoom in, but the idea was basically easy as 1, 2, 3. Set it, let it, forget it. Which obviously I'm not a marketing guy, so.
Do you think like a before and after picture would catch people's eyes? Because then, I mean, now you have to like read it to understand what it does, but if they just look at a picture, it's like self-explanatory.
Yeah, I do. I think an image is worth 1,000 words. I think if we could somehow have the demo video running right next to it, I think that would help even more. But an image and the before and after, I think makes a lot of sense. I think which is this one, I think a size comparison also at least helps from more from an educational perspective, not from hey, here's the shiny new box of mulch. But I agree with your comment. The before and after, I think, can be pretty compelling for people.
I know, like, your whole point of this, like, is like less order. Like, someone like me kind of likes the smell of mulch. That maybe having like kind of like a smell to it might, like, I feel like at the same time, even people who really don't like the smell because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think like when you're done and you take a break and come back outside, I think it's nice to have that fresh smell. So I think maybe like having like a little bit of a smell won't because I agree like sometimes when you dump it and you get that wolf of it it's gonna be a lot. So I mean just but since this really you don't have to dump it, you just put it down and then water it.
Yeah.
I think having maybe a little bit of a smell could also make it to where you walk by you have that fresh smell.
Yeah, and so this is again, I mean, back to the education comment question. Once you water it, it will go back to smelling like mulch. While it's in the package, though, on the way home, it won't smell like mulch, which so for me, it's been really eye-opening. It's probably 50-50, maybe 60 don't like, 40 do like the smell. I'm in the 60s, so I honestly didn't even think twice about it. So I think for us, the value proposition is, even if you, and again, I could be completely wrong about this too, but even if you like the smell of mulch in your yard, do you want your car to smell like mulch? And I think less people would say, yes, I want my car to smell like mulch. So, so this is to the education comment, right? I mean, we need to figure out how to message that in a way where it's not ambiguous. We're not leaving opportunity for people to think one thing when we're really trying to say the other. And sometimes that's tough because there's a lot. Again, like I said, it's just compressed mulch, but there's a fair amount of stuff going on here.
So you were talking about if the pucks get wet or like if it drizzles, they start to expand. storing seems to be kind of hard though, because you would have to keep it in, because normally it would stay in a shed or a garage where it typically can become damp.
Right.
And some people do it, you know, half at a go, so they don't have time to do their like whole yards and stuff.
Yeah.
Or keep extra. Like, is it gonna be like almost like a waterproofing type of a package that you're gonna be doing, or?
So it's more direct moisture. So even a cardboard or a paper package, similar to like how you would buy a pack of charcoal, as long as you didn't submerge that, we should be okay. These pucks will pick up some moisture from the air if it's damp outside, but they're not going to fully expand. They really need to be exposed to direct water as a result. The other interesting thing about what you just said, and Kay and I talked about this, you know, when you listen to people talk about something, they may just be used to it being that way. So I heard you say, and I agree with you, some people will do half their yard today, half their yard tomorrow. I asked the question, why? Why wouldn't you just do it all in one day? Is it because of the backache? Is it because it's heavy? You know, what's driving that behavior? And I hope for some of those people this would help solve that problem. But it's, you know, even just again listening to you say it that way, ask it that way, it's this underlying problem that it's taking me 2 days to do my yard. So anyway, I appreciate the question. And again, I'm giving you guys way more than 2 cents of stuff, but 20 years from now, you'll look back and you'll think I was crazy. But.
So, you know, most people will look at this and go, okay, your product is mulch. It's mulch, you know. But really, your business is, you're a manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so working out those processes, I mean, because some people might look at this and go, how tough can selling mulch be? But you have this whole manufacturing process that you're working out. So can you talk maybe a little bit about that and how you know, and the fact that you went from square tiles to pucks and why?
Sure. So there's a lot in that question, and even more in the answer. So to hit that, I think in a couple of different points. The way that mulch is typically made or processed, you have trees or fallen limbs that are chipped. Those are then colored. They then sit in a pile with the intent to compost them so that the center of the pile heats up to a certain temperature to then burn off any of the weed spores and other bacteria and other things that are in that pile. So that is intentionally happening. They will rotate that pile so that it doesn't get too hot, which that pile can combust. So that is the mulch making process. The next step for a traditional bagger is bag the mulch, throw it on a truck, send it wherever it's going. That first part of it, we currently don't want to be doing. We want to be spending our time on what we think is the value add manufacturing component, which is we're dehydrating, we're compressing, we're putting it into a form that we think will work for the consumer. And again, believe it or not, there's a fair amount of equipment, you need a facility, and that's after all the logistics involved in having mulch dropped and where is it going to be while you're waiting for it to dry. And it's actually, I mean, to your point, it's like I said, we're focused on the middle piece of it, which is adding that value. We could probably insert our product back into a regular traditional mulch manufacturer's distribution and sales process. There's a lot that happens in this narrow window, and I mean, there's a lot that happens on both sides of it. But we talked a little bit about the tiles versus the pucks. Some of the consideration for moving from a tile to a puck was driven by the cost of the equipment required to make the tile. So we made a pretty conscious decision to use a machine that we were able to rent to make the pucks, as opposed to having to design and build our own equipment, which then would have driven our cost up as we would have gone to market. So a lot of our decision was cost-based in trying to maintain an attractive price point relative to the value for the consumer. It also simplified a little bit of the technology involved, at least from the standpoint of us having to build it. The interesting thing for me about, again, mulch is, it is what it is. It's a ground cover, it's chipped up wood, it's dyed, whatnot. We sat at a primarily software and technology driven event and had a booth competing against, I think it was 42 other teams. Again, most of them were either healthcare software, software as a service in general. There were a few technology, I should say a few non-software based technology companies. And people that were at this expo were allowed to walk around and vote on the companies. And you know, again, you can maybe say that it's a stretch to talk about SmartMulch as a technology, even though there is engineering and equipment involved in it. We ended up coming in second place out of those 42 teams based on what people walked around and saw. And again, technology is great, but sometimes I guess a little compressed mulch just appeals to people, or is at least relatable to people. So I'm not sure if that fully answered your question, Kay, but anyway. Oh, actually, the other point I was going to make was that when you think about this, we're a value-add manufacturer now. If you think about 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, maybe we've designed and patented the equipment that makes this. And now we are not a mulch value-add manufacturer, but we are an equipment manufacturer. And now we sell that equipment to every mulch yard that's in the country. So there are a variety of different ways that this could go. We've tried to think about a lot of them. With again recognizing that it's great to be thinking farther out, but remaining focused on near-term priorities, which again for us is taking these pucks to market to prove or disprove that consumers are willing to pay for the product. What else do you guys have? What else don't you like? What else could we improve? Our packaging stinks. Marketing stinks. What else could we be doing better?
Have you considered selling directly to the consumer instead of like going to stores and whatnot? And by consumer, I mean like lawn care companies and whatnot, like that, instead of the stores.
Yeah. So we have, and where I initially thought you were going to go with that was, would we be selling online and shipping direct to consumer?
That's the other
which
option.
we've looked at that. There's still, even though we're taking out over 40% of the weight, there's still potential that that's too much of a weight issue. That said, if you go on Amazon is selling bags of mulch for $18 to $25. And maybe they're not selling, but they're at least listed for that. We'd be able to deliver ours significantly less than that, but it would still be at a significant premium because of the shipping that's involved. And to your actual question, for me, the initial market is DIY consumers, because I think we compete best with bags of mulch, which more consumers are buying bags of mulch. There are certainly some lawn care people that are, but in a lot of cases, the lawn care and landscape maintenance companies are buying truckloads of mulch, which for us, I think is more difficult to compete with given our process. Good question. Anything else?
Well, okay. Well, I want to thank you, Mike, for coming out and sharing your story. very interesting. I mean, mulch, yard work, and technology. I mean, combining those two make for a very interesting product. And as one who's laid mulch in her yard every summer, I can greatly appreciate the value add of your product, because I don't enjoy having that backache when I'm done. So thanks again, and if anyone wants to go up and talk with Mike afterwards, please feel free to do so. Thank you.